there's a delay. See that? Yeah, you can see that for a second. Hey everybody, if you can hear me, if you're on, if you can put a message in the box and let us know that you are here. This will let us know that we set up the software correctly. We are not a major production studio, so it's something that this is grassroots behind the scenes at our home studio, Melissa and I know there's a slight delay in the broadcast. So when you do plug in and let us know that you can hear, so if you can hear us clearly, we have to use a different type of microphone than we normally do because we're going to be doing a lot of distance, so you might hear some ambient noise. But if you can let us know if you can hear us and if you can see us, very, very important details. So again, if you can hear and see us, be very important if you could let us know. And we're going to begin in about 3-4 minutes. So again, if you can let us know if you can hear us and see us, or at least myself, because right now Melissa is off camera. Again, we're here at our home studio and we're just waiting a couple minutes to make sure we get everybody in and also all the technical aspects are in place. So hopefully everybody can see and hear us. And again, I know there's about a 30-second to a minute delay and we'll wait for people to come into the room. So I'm going to dip over to the side for a second, but I'll be back because it's a little dangerous to not be present. You know what, I'll stay here. So again, if you can hear and see us, if you can post in the chat room and let us know in that chat box that's up in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm going to step off for a split second to make sure Melissa is doing everything properly. Just see me on there. Okay, yeah. It'll take about 30 seconds. Okay. Again, if you can hear us and or see us, if you can say hi in the chat box and shoot us a message. That way we can make sure the system is working properly. And just so Melissa can make sure that this is the current one, I'm going to wave my hands right now just to make sure that we are being seen properly on the software. So whenever you get a chance, if you can, in the upper or on the right side menu, if you can leave a message and let us know that you can hear us and see us, that would be great. Again, this is not a professional recording studio. This is Grassroots with Melissa and I, and we are looking forward to bringing you this content today. And it's not going to be high-end production quality value, but hopefully it's be good enough and it'll be content rich for everybody. So again, if you can, in the message box, just shoot us an email in a message box and let us know that you were able to get in properly and also that you are able to hear us and see us. So very important, because if I'm talking to you and I'm muted, that's not a good thing. So let me just check again. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Charlene.
All right, Charlene said she can hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So we definitely have a delay, a lag.
Tim's here.
So Tim's in here. Who else?
We got Jill.
Jill.
Yeah.
And where's everybody from, real quick? We're gonna wait like 2-3 minutes just to make sure everybody gets in properly.
We got Sandy.
Sandy, and who else? Good. These are at least those of you that are plugging in. We're not looking at the actual software that would tell us everybody that's actually inside the room. But let us know where you're from. And I know there's a slight delay in this, so
Sophie.
we have Sophie that just said that she could hear us. So tell you a little bit of background while we're waiting for everybody to get into the room. There's a little delay again in the broadcast. So on my end, my name is Paul Pruitt. I run a full-time photography studio. We just this year merged it back into our home after a very long period of time of having a professional commercial studio. I had for 11 and a half years in South Philadelphia, an actual studio, physical studio there, then moved it closer to home. We're here in Wilmington, Delaware, which is not a huge market, but there are opportunities everywhere. And we decided this past year with the amount of money we were paying in rent and looking at the numbers as far as what made sense coming in, it just didn't make sense to have two spaces. So now we moved into a just shy of a 5,000 square foot home and converted our 3-car garage here. It's still in process. We have a contractor coming in next week to actually create permanent walls on this side. Right now we have a permanent or a temporary fix with some drapery. Melissa, you had something?
Yeah, we got John from Kansas City.
John from Kansas
We
City.
got Sophie from Canada.
Sophie from Canada. Cool.
Paul from Cornwall.
Cornwall. Paul.
We got Colorado. That's Shane.
Great. Hopefully you guys can hear Melissa as well. Shane from Colorado, is that what you said?
Yep.
Oh, great.
And Ed from Newark, Delaware.
Oh, we got Ed. Hey, let's shout out for Newark, Delaware. So he would probably know more than anybody else as well, is that we're in a very small marketplace here, and it's something that very competitive like it is in every market. And one thing that I've learned over the years that I'm very thankful. I've been doing photography since I was 7 years old when I bought my first camera. And from there, going right out of high school, I took 4 years in high school with photography and took a different career path and went into the real estate world, did very, very well in that world for many years. That's another story for another day. Today we're focusing on lighting. But when I made a lot of money in real estate, I spent a lot of money and went to my first love, that was photography, and I learned and paid mentors around the world to teach me lighting, posing, different aspects of professional photography. And this is back in the day when everything was analog, everything was on slide and chrome film with production and commercial side, and then film on the everyday side. So it's something that I learned lighting from the standpoint where you couldn't cheat and chimp and look at the back of a camera and make slight adjustments. Everything was basically manual back then. And everything we do today that I'm going to show you in this webinar is going to be something that you can do with speed lights. It's something you can do with hot lights or constant lighting, as well as flash. Today in here with a lot of you came in from the aspect of seeing the posts that I did in a couple of the Facebook groups that showed an image, a very specific image I did of former Miss Delaware. And that's one of many images that she used in her during her year that she won that title. And it's something that there's a lot of little things that are going on that, but it's once you understand lighting and get a better idea of it, it's something it's a lot simpler than you think. But it's like anything in life, when you don't understand what it is, it seems very overly complicated. Then once you have that aha moment and you have that paradigm shift, and you're in a whole different reality. So, but what I'm going to do is show you through. I use Paul Buff products. I have 4 Einsteins that are set up behind me. I'll go through all that, but understand that you can do this with constant light. You can do it with, constant light again is like ambient light. It's something that, you turn on, and we used to call it hot lights because they were definitely hot. Right now I'm being illuminated by an LED, which is, not specifically hot. It's not putting off any heat, but it is that constant light. But it's something that in here, we're going to use a range of different modifiers and everything I'm going to show you through very, very quickly. Just wasting a little bit of time right now to get people into the room. Anything new that came over? Okay, good. So let me just have Melissa come over and say hi. She is behind the scenes on the computer, and then we'll bring her in just to.
Hey guys.
So this is Melissa, and look right here. This is a webcam. We have a microphone above and the camera down here, so it's a little bit like, what do I talk to? But Melissa's she's my business partner, and she helps out all the time when we're dealing with clients and everything. She does the behind the scenes work, all the logistics, Because as an artist, I tend to make a lot of promises and then drop the ball, unfortunately. And she's the one that actually makes sure I follow through on the promises. She keeps me on track in a lot of different ways.
Am I the drill sergeant?
Yeah, not quite the drill sergeant, but very, very thankful. The interesting thing is Melissa and I, when she's my fiance now. And we already contracted a photographer, so that started setting that all in. But I actually met her through a client, a pageant, Krista, and she was having a fundraiser, and I photographed that event. And she was a pageant woman, and Melissa was also pageants back at that time. And I met her when I was photographing that event, and then it followed up into an actual headshot session, a paid headshot session.
Yep.
And just coincidentally, how life works its way out. You know, that was like 6-7 years ago, and these days we're together and going to get married in 2017. So, but she's going to help me behind the scenes. So in a way, which has been great, is that she was behind the camera in front of the camera, and now she experiences it also on the flip side as well. So she's been on probably hundreds of photo shoots between herself, and she's also a director for local pageants, and has had state winners go up into the national system, and does a lot of coaching of posing and modeling and everything as well. So, but she's incredible. I mean, she has her master's degree and all kinds of background on her, and we won't get into the junk today, but just something that I do want to at least let you know who she is. She'll be behind the scenes initially to help guide us and keep me on track a little bit, because I'm going to try to fit a lot of information in a very short period of time. And from there, then I'll have her come back in front again, so I can show you a little bit of the details as far as what I put together. So if you want to dip behind the scenes again.
Right. See you guys.
Okay. Feel free if you want to ask questions throughout the process. It'll probably be a little overwhelming. We might have to handle the questions after the fact, probably in the groups. If you want to start, you can ask questions later on, and then I'll comment and help out. So a couple of things I want to go over real quick is that we are using studio strobes. So again, these are called mono heads, which means everything's built within the unit itself. And what we're going to do is I've already set everything up, already metered it, and it's a little bit outside the scope of today, but it's something that if you don't own a light meter and you're going to get into studio work, you have to own a light meter, because the idea when we go out on headshots, and understand, and it's something I didn't talk about, but this year we'll finish a little bit over 800 headshots this year, and they're all paid, all corporate work, and individuals, but we do everything from real estate agents and law firms to like DuPont Company is one of our national clients that we have. And we just did a several-day branding campaign for them globally, which is interesting because they just announced the merger with Dow this week. So they might not end up using any of those images that we took for, but thankfully they paid very, very well before that happened. So, but one of the things I'm going to do is just take you through very, very quickly. We're going to information dump very aggressively just to get you up to speed. But one of the things right out the gate is you need to have a flash meter, because we are dealing with light. When you're in a controlled situation, you need to understand that everything is basically fixed. When you're out in the real world and you're taking pictures of families out in the public or in a park, or where you're photographing a wedding, those light qualities are constantly changing. The variables are constantly changing in and out and all that. When you're in a studio environment, everything's fixed. Everything is not things are varying. So your white balance should be consistent. Your camera settings should be consistent. So if you're not a manual shooter, you need to be, because these things aren't flip-flopping all over the place. And if you don't know a lot about these items, it's something that we can expand into the new year to understand each of those pieces. But as an example, right now, if I had my camera on auto white balance and I took a photo back here right a second, I have an LED that has a gel on it to match my other light bulbs that are in here. So it's a CTO gel, color temperature orange. And what's happening is all of it in here is tungsten light. It's a very orange, very yellow orange style light, very warm. But my lighting that I have in here is daylight balance. It's right around 5,600 Kelvin. And what happens is those two are totally extreme. So if I was using auto white balance and I click the shutter, what would happen is it would think that I'm shooting tungsten. And then when it pops and hits the person, the model, or the client that's right there, it's not going to know how to read. Plus, in this situation, I also have a color gel on the back, and I'm going to talk about that as well in a couple of minutes. And with that, that's like a teal. that's gonna pop a really blue. So that would color shift as well. So the one thing that I think when people get into studio work where they struggle with is they still have some of their settings on some type of auto settings. So when it comes to white balance, if you don't understand white balance a lot, the best thing I can say is at least go to the little, looks like a little lightning bolt. And it has, that's your basic preset within the cameras that's saying, hey, this is gonna be flash. So at least you have that as a starting point. It's not perfect. Now, when there's no excuse if you don't have anything that does white balance or custom white balance. This is a very inexpensive, probably costs $3 or $4 at your local camera store. I'm sure B&H probably gives them away. But this is a gray card. So we're not gonna go in depth with all these things, but I just need to at least graze over some of these things with you. So it's neutral gray, what they call neutral gray, or 18% gray. And it's just that midpoint between white and black that this will be able to tell on your camera as well as in software like Lightroom. If you shoot RAW, is you'll be able to use this as a marker. So before somebody steps in here, I want to take, and that's why I bring an assistant with me a lot. We set up all the lighting ahead of time before an attorney sits in that place or that doctor sits in that place or whoever that client is, because I want to be respectful of their time. So I'm not going to sit here and fiddle around with lighting and try to tweak it out while they're sitting there. The time is money on their end. So we always go in ahead of time, set everything up. Even when somebody comes in the studio, if we've shot for that company before, we know a certain lighting pattern, lighting setup that they want. So make sure you do a gray card and or we have color checker, the X-Rate color checker card. There's a guy, Ed, who used to own PhotoVision. I think he sold it to PPA, but he created this target that has a gray tone, 18% gray in it as well. But it's something that you can find these things anywhere online. Melissa had a question.
And can you get the same result with a gray card?
Oh yeah. So gray card, you can use the color checker card. It's in the camera bag, so I can't get it right now. These, I'm just, with sake of time, I'm just really quick going over these. So just keep in mind, you want that white balance, you want it to be consistent, and at least make sure that it's close enough. And then later on, again, using a gray card or anything else, it's next to nothing to purchase. So there's no reason that you don't have it. Now we have a remote system here, so you can wire, you can tether. But here we have a transceiver system. Not sure if you guys can quite see that high. Maybe I need to bring this down. Okay, so can you click on that other just to see if you can see?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I have on here right now is, we used to call it a pan dish. It's known as a beauty dish. And as long as this, okay. So it's aged. I've had it for about 20 years now. We had 3 of them. This just has a slight warming to it, so I like it. But there's no direct light that comes in to the client or the model or whatever. The light's gonna come through, hit the back of that, and then it's gonna reflect out. It has about 170-degree spread. It's nice and even, nice, really clean. It does drop off really well. Sometimes we put grids in these when we really want to focus and make it a little bit more dramatic, but it's something that this is what we're going to use today for the shot. So in general, again, I'm dumping a lot of information very quickly. Normally we do like a 10-hour class on this stuff when we do it live, is that you have, in general with lighting, the smaller the light source, the harsher the light in relationship to the person, the subject. So the larger the light source, the softer the light. So if you're using a pop-up flash, it's very, very harsh. If you're using a speed light directly at it, very hard light coming in very, very harsh. So you can see that this is like, think about like holding a flashlight right underneath your chin, how it creates its hard contrasty highlights and shadows. That just going from this size to this size, how much softer the light's going to be. Now going from this size to even bigger, and with the umbrellas, with the soft boxes and everything else, the larger you go, the softer the light. Now that's also in relationship to the distance, because the sun, as an example, is the largest light source that we have in our entire lives, but it's so far away, it's like a pin in the sky, and that's why it casts hard shadows. So if you think about it, one second, if you think about it, the moment that the sun has, is out and it hits you really hard and you see those hard shadows outside. A lot of people, unless you're a grunge band, you're not typically looking for that look. That the moment that cloud cover goes over, then the clouds become the light source. Now you have a softer light. Same thing in the studio. The larger we can make the light source, the softer the light. So instead of being that hard bulb coming out, the moment that you can expand it and make it larger and maybe not as direct, then all of a sudden it's going to get softer and softer. So we have a lot of other modifiers. We kind of took them out of the space just to give us a little bit of breathing room for this webinar. We have them hidden behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz. But today we're going to use the beauty dish. So this is one of the pieces that we're going to use. This is going to be the key light or the main light. That's normally your main light source. Now what I did, because of the example that I showed for promotion for the webinar, that is a very blurred background. So there's a lot of bokeh in it. And it's something that I have a different type of background that does a similar effect, but I want to show you how you achieve that. Now, understand that a lot of you, if you're like photographing inside your living room or your dining room or somewhere that's very small, it's harder to get this effect, because the one thing that's not talked about a lot of times is with professional photographers that are doing in-studio work, where they can get more creative with lighting, is because of the depth. Because what I'm able to do is I'm able to light independently each piece that I want and make sure that other pieces are not spilling in to and contaminating other light sources. Now, before I go any further, I think Melissa had a question, so I just want to make sure.
Sure, Molly, just want to know what boom arm are you using?
Molly, the boom arm that I have here is, I believe it's the Avenger. It's something that I always wanted the Red Wing. I'm not sure if you guys ever looked that up. That's a beautiful, that's like a $500-600 item. But this is it's either the Bogan or the Avenger. So and I'm glad you just brought that up, because that brings a side point though. It always kills me on the forums when I see everybody talk about, like, you spend all this money on this piece here, right? And then everybody wants to go as cheap as possible on the light stands and on the booms and everything. And that just kills me inside, because you're putting all this money up here, right? And then you're going to go cheap on what's going to hold it. And I've seen it over and over again. I've had 2 shared studios where I've had co-ops where other photographers have come in the past. And I've watched 3 or 4 times over the years where the cheap plastic boom arm contraption has broke over and over and over again. And it's just something that, why would you do that? Why would you spend all that money on this? And also think about safety for your clients and safety for others. And it would just be embarrassing. So this is a high grade, high quality commercial level boom arm, and I strongly recommend that you get something. Think about that. Just don't go cheap on the stands and everything. So we're going to put this back up right now. Now there's a quick release that's on these, so that's why that goes on very, very quickly. We're not going to go through that today because it's a little bit outside the scope. But again, we're going to push light in this direction. This is my key light. And what I'm going to do, because I want that bokeh feel, that I didn't want to go quite 2.8, because again, the wider the aperture, the lower the number. Some of you are new to all this, so the wider the aperture, the lower the number. And the best analogy I can give is, think about when you go and get your eyes dilated at the eye doctor, that you can't drive. And the reason for that is your depth of field shrinks. So your eyes are dilated, and then all of a sudden your depth of field, you can't drive because you can't focus on everything. You have light sensitivity. You're letting more light into your eyes. Same thing with the camera. So if you have a nicer lens, and to achieve this effect, and what we're going to do to compress the background and really zoom in and pull it up and get that beautiful bokeh feel is, I have a 70-200 2.8 IS. So that's just going to allow me to zoom in, compress that background, pull it like it's right behind Melissa when we photograph her, and it's going to get a beautiful bokeh in the background and that milky effect. But again, I need the distance because I'm going to be pushing light into the background. So also with that, we can independently light. So when you do have distance, so I have this key light that's right here, right now, right? So this isn't perfect, but when I have Melissa right around here, of course, this is going to be higher, but it's something that hopefully you guys can hear me. So, but when we raise this, what's going to happen is that light is metered to hit right around this area. So we already metered it earlier on, and I metered it for 4.0. So what I'm looking at is 4.0 that makes sure that she's in focus, because I don't want her, I don't want our eyes to be in focus and our nose not to be in focus. And sometimes a 2-8, depending on how you're positioning, you're gonna, the nose could be in focus and the eyes could be out of focus, and you accidentally, you focused on the nose. So, but I have distance here. I have about 10 to 15 feet behind that background, so I can independently light that background. Now, what's interesting is if I don't light the background at all, if I turn that light off and I meter here for 4.0, that light would fall off so much. I've already metered it earlier. In order to see that back there perfectly, you'd have to have a lens that went to 1.5 or something. So it's like crazy. So that means that the fall off of light, can't get into the detail of it today, but if you want to get really geeky, you can read into what's called the law of the inverse square. And that talks about the relationship of how the light fades off as it increases in distance, and how rapidly it goes in shorter distances, and how it slowly feathers off as you increase your distance between the subject and in the background. So we're not going to get into detail of that today, because that can make a lot of your head spin. So just know that if I meter here and I don't put any light back there, it will show, even though you see all of that back there, from this camera point of view in the settings, and I did 100 ISO 4.0 at 1/25th of a second. So the flash is what we're going to see. It's going to capture what's going to be there. The 1/25th of a second is not that important, because I'm not purposely dragging the shutter. I'm not going to see any ghosting or anything like that, because how the settings are set up, I'm not even going to see this ambient light in here without the flash popping off. So there's no light contamination even with what we see here. So 4.0 right here, get a good depth of field in order to see everything on as far as the key light, and then it'll fall off by the time it goes back there. So what I'm going to do is independently light over back here in different ways. Now, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to raise this back up, and then I'm going to talk about a couple other pieces of light that we have here, as well as a reflector. Actually, I'll talk about the reflector first. So let me move this back up. And if there's questions so far, please feel free to ask. All right. Can you see if you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I have here is an old school triflector. I'm not even sure they even build this particular model anymore. You'll see, I think Westcott has something called the eye lighter or something. You guys can correct me. I'm not a geeky person where I'm constantly out buying new gear all the time. So I don't keep in tune with all the names and the fancy new gadgets. I just look for the tools that work for me and use them. This is going to reflect light back up. Of course, I have a reverse so you can see it right now. But it's something that we have one key light coming in, then this will reflect that light and fill in the shadows and come up. It's a very pleasing look. You'll see it a lot in beauty photography, headshots specifically. It creates a beautiful 3 catch lights in the lower portion of the eye. And it just gives a really nice, not quite flat look, but it's something that, and I'm not sure if a lot of you know, but when you have a setup like this, I'm just going to move this over here. Okay. So when you have a setup like this from above, this is clamshell lighting. That's where you're coming from above and from below. Now, if I wanted to control the light a little bit more on the bottom, I can actually introduce a second light underneath, and typically I do that with a larger softbox, and that way I have the same effect, but I can then control it up and down. Maybe I need to fill, maybe it's a group, maybe there's other things going on, but this will allow me to use a 1 light setup with a beautiful fill light coming in that'll just grab those shadows. So butterfly lighting, without this, butterfly lighting is coming from above, where you create a loop of a shadow right underneath the nose. So it's all about positioning. So I'm going to go a lot into posing and everything today, just going to show you a little bit about lighting. So again, 1 light setup, it's hitting here, it's reflecting here. Of course, where I have it set now is right below, so that wouldn't make sense. So it would come out here, because that light's going to travel, even though it's hitting above, it's going to reflect back. And the distance of it hitting here coming under is going to look like a fill, because it's traveling further here than it is directly here. So it's going to be a slightly softer, bringing up in the shadows. So that is one of the effects here. So what we're going to do, let's say, are you able to? We have the lighting. We have this system on a cart.
Yes.
And I know you might not be prepared for this, but can you grab the cart, or you want me to do it?
No, you do it.
Okay. So I'm going to do, actually, we'll lead it with this. So give me a second, guys. We're going to, hopefully we don't lose everything here. All right. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Can you do that? All right. Very cool. So can you see me in there?
Mm-hmm. You're good.
Okay. So one of the other lights that we have coming from the back, and in this case, just for sake of space, I created, I set up two at 90-degree angles, or I'm sorry, 45-degree angles in the back, is we're going to create two rim lights. So the rim lights are going to do exactly that. They're going to rim the hair and the body. Now, what I did in this case is I used two 20-degree grids. So that'll control the light. Now, this light's going to be harsher because it's not, you know, it's not being diffused. It's going to come directly at subject. But we have this right here, we have the grid that's going to control the spill. So I don't want this to go everywhere now. Now I'm doing the opposite of the beauty dish where it's spreading the light nice and evenly. This is going to be more focused. It's going to come straight in. So what I'm doing is with a 20-degree grid in this case, I'm putting on here. Now this is just a setup that I did to conserve space within our in-home studio. Normally we would have a wider space to work with, but we're looking at about a 10-foot wide space within here. So I have Matthew poles, or also known as auto poles, you know, different brands that I had for years, and these just allow us to snap them right up into the ceiling, like up to 14-foot ceilings, well, about 12-foot ceilings. But it's something that I have a super clamp on here, so this grips to just about anything. And I already have this light and everything metered. So I have this metered. Initially, I had it metered at 4.0, and actually half a stop hotter. So, but what I found is Melissa just got her hair done, and she has these purple highlights in her hair. Even though she has darker hair, she has purple highlights in her hair, and it was making it glow like too much. So normally people that have darker hair, normally that absorbs light. So what you want to do typically is you pop a little bit hotter, about a half stop hotter to a stop, depending on how much it absorbs the light. People that have lighter hair, you know, blonde hair, you normally want to go right around the same f-stop that your key light is, because otherwise you're going to bleach out the detail in that hair. Now, this is a hard style light, so it's going to show a little bit different. Thing about it's very, you know, just like that flashlight, it's very focused beam. It's going to hit really hard, and it's going to be controlled, so it's going to come right towards really specific spot, and then it's going to feather off quickly because it's a 20-degree, you know, directional grid. Where we do have half domes, we have larger half soft boxes, and normally we would use those to create a little bit of a softer wraparound feel that would bring that beautiful hair light and rim lighting and push across. So I have two of these because I want to show you what I did in that example that I posted. So I have two of those lights on either side here. I'm not sure if you can see both, or if you can just see the one from there. So I'm going to put this one back in, but we do have them on both sides. But this is just something, again, we normally would have a light stand if we had a little bit more space, just to put it on both sides of the background. And also keep in mind that even though these are coming from behind, they're so focused that what happens is it's not contaminating, it's not hitting the background. So that's very, very important to understand, because these lights are just doing one thing. They're not coming into the camera. We're not getting lens flare. If I had this bare bulb open, you know, facing in the direction of the camera, boom, I would get lens flare all the time. So this is very focused, coming right in, hitting the client or the model very specifically. But I just want to talk about the REM lights. So that we have both of these, and right now they're set for 4.0. I'm just going to put this back on.
I'm not sure if you answered this, but Ed wants to know, can you do that same shot with a speed light and not get harsh shadows since it's direct and not 45?
Yeah, but can you grab me the modifiers of these? Yeah, and the speed light. So Ed asked if you can do this with speed lights as well. There's a lot of different brands out there. A buddy of mine, Spencer, created Magmod. I don't work for them or don't get They do sponsor some of the stuff that we do. They're very friendly that way, but definitely not in a position where I'm endorsing them or getting anything back for them. But we use these in weddings and also other opportunities. Hey, Shannon from the group just showed up. Hey, Shannon. But we do have a setup where I've used this in headshots on the fly for enlarging, just taking the speed light and enlarging the space, but also for the rim lighting. And we do this a lot on weddings as well. But they do make grids as well. So we popped it on there. This is called the MagMod system. But I know Rogue has a system and several other, Honol, I believe, has a system, everything as well, where you have different grids and everything. So you can do this with speed lights. You just have to keep in mind it's going to be more focused because it's a smaller light source to begin with. Same thing in reverse though. You could take this, and we have rapid boxes where we're able to pop them open real quick, and we have an instant soft box and get that beautiful soft light as well. So you can enlarge or shrink the light source too. So you have another question?
Yeah, Tim wants to know, what would you set the lighting if one subject has dark hair and the other two were blondes?
Okay. So that's always tricky. So there's not a perfect answer there, but personally, what I typically do is I look at what the dominant is. So if you have two blondes, you don't want their hair to be bleached out. So you're going to sacrifice the one. We do a lot of compositing also. So sometimes we might photograph everybody independently and then bring them into the same shot. That way we get exactly what we want. The moment you go into groups, you have to look at the law of averages then. So it's something that I would go almost in between. You don't want the blondes to be it. And also I keep this in mind when it comes to complexion as well. So it's not just hair color, but also if I have somebody that's very light skinned next to somebody that's very dark skinned, if I have the light skinned person closer to the light, it's going to bleach them out. And the person that's further away from the light, it's going to feather off and make them even darker. So what I would do is either reverse them or change position of the light. So if I had two blondes and one darker hair, well, I would probably be looking at the dominant as the blondes. So I wouldn't want to sacrifice the detail of their hair just to put a little bit of rim light on the darker hair person. So I would look at the law of average. So I wouldn't go too hot or too low. I go like right in the middle, see how it looks. And if I'm sacrificing detail somewhere, I would still kick it back a little bit. You also have to keep in mind, it's something that people don't think about a lot, but it's what's called the point of diminishing returns, that there's a lot of us in the Facebook groups get so analytical back and forth on what is the perfect image, should I get critiqued, how can I improve this, what's going to blah, blah, blah. I mean, I see layers and layers and layers. And the thing is, as artists, we want to improve ourselves, but you have to understand the public, the community out there, they don't see a difference. You could spend an extra 3 or 4 hours, tweaking something out in Photoshop, and they're not going to care. They're going to still pay the same amount of money. And, you put in all this work and it ends up not being appreciated. Maybe your peers will appreciate it, but the end client isn't going to know any different. So, but I would try not to sacrifice details. So I would go in the average. Before we take any more questions, let me keep flowing here. Can you take this?
Yep.
Here. Okay. Now, can you see me with the, can you see if I'm being shown here?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a couple things right here I'm going to show you. So we have a backdrop. We have a backdrop stand here. It's a smaller stand. That way we can dip and hide it really easy behind the subject. And it's kicked. The light itself is kicked at 180 degrees. This is what's called a shovel. This one is hard. So it's opaque, so it does not allow light to go through it. It allows light to go on 180 degree in one direction. So we use this a lot in headshots. Definitely when we do the pure white background and we're limited with space and we have to do that, I call it the social media headshot session. We'll put this in real quick and just hit that background, blow it out. That way there's lack of detail there. And so in this case, what we're gonna do, and this is the one thing that you have to keep in mind, is that, and this is gonna be hard to talk about in a short piece here, but because we were way back there with our key light, and like I said, is at 4.0 and the light drops off considerably before it hits here. That means even though you see all of this visually right now, that means because it's such a distance, again, that's the key, is distance, is to make sure that there's enough distance between each piece. That way this light independently is lighting the subject. That's all I wanted to do. I do not want it to contaminate the background. If I had that beauty dish and I put it right here, 10 feet away or less, and lit everything, it's gonna hit the background. It's not gonna allow this light to do what I want it to do. It's not gonna allow the rim lights to do. It's all contaminated. But by pushing and creating space between it, I now can independently light each piece separately. And that's where a lot of people, I think, don't realize that that's one of the keys, because you're gonna sit there and go, wow, that's a beautiful image. You go back from a class or seminar or webinar or whatever, you go to try to use something and you don't understand why it's not working. And a lot of times because you put it in a compressed space. Now I have a white wall here, a white wall here, and I know a lot of you are like, oh my goodness, like light's bouncing all over the place. Nope, that light is 4.0, only that many inches away to hit that person. By the time the light travels and hits this wall or hits that wall, by the time it bounces back, it's almost non-existent in the camera. And it's hard to understand. You have to again take time to research and understand the law of the inverse square. I know I said that earlier on, but so right now, with a light that far away, it's not impacting the background. So I'm going to illuminate the background. Now, I'm not sure if you can fully see what I have here, but what I did is we have one of our portable black backdrop stands that we just, collapsibles, that I just throw in front of the white background. And what I did is just so it's blacked out. So, and what I have here are these bead curtains that I picked up at like a local farmer's market type thing. I'm sure you can find them at different variety stores. Has a reflective quality to it. It's mainly has purples and greens in it. It's very, again, you find them just about anywhere. I just wanted the reflective quality of it. I didn't care what color it is because I'm going to push color onto it. So a lot of times we see or we push light into something and we do get that certain effect. But you have to keep in mind, a lot of you are running out and you're constantly saying, oh, I need a black background, I need a white background, I need a purple background, I need a pink background, I need a and if you're doing full, full runs where you have people standing or sitting or laying on the background, then yeah, you do need that, because it'll be a nightmare to Photoshop all that. But for me, I'm doing headshots, so I just need this area to be the color that I want it to be. So I can, within a minute, I can take it from a white light and then use this teal and instantly change the color of the light just by doing that. And now my backdrop is not black anymore. Now my backdrop is this color. Now, depending, again, since I'm at 4.0 and 4.0, if I take this below 4.0, as far as metering and hitting that background, it'll become a deeper, darker color. If I pop it up and let's say I do F16 on it, like it really pops really hot, it'll be near white. It'll be, because it's popping so hot in comparison to where the key light is. And that's the one thing that I think shocks people when they come into the 10-hour workshops, the lighting workshops that we do live, is that they don't understand that you only really need a white background, because if you take a light away from it, if I turn all the lights off right now, what color is the background? It's pure black because it's lacking light. And now, depending on the intensity of the light that you introduce to it, it'll take it from every shade gray until it turns pure white. So you can take a black background and make it pure white, or you can make it other color, any color in the spectrum. Same thing with a white background. If you have enough space, you can control light. You can make a white background pure black, and or you can shade it in any color of the rainbow that you want. And a lot of people don't understand that. But again, if you're doing it in a small space, you can't do it because you're not independently lighting that piece. So it's something that space is very, very important. So here we have this teal, and here it's going to hit these beads and it's going to hit it hot. Actually, right now, I think I have this right at 4.0. So I had it all balanced out just so you could see what it looks like. So again, if I took it up with these mono heads, they have an up and down button. So every click that I click up, it takes it 1/10 of a stop up. Every time I hit it down once, it takes it 1/10 of a stop down. It's approximate, but it's very, very close. So it allows me to purposely overexpose or underexpose depending on my settings. So again, in studio, everything's fixed, 1/25 of a second. We're doing 4.0 at 100 ISO. Now, you have, okay, I got 20 minutes. I'm being told, this is all new for us. So this is a good test run for everybody, what we're going to do in the new year. So what I'm doing is by putting this here, this is going to push that teal color into this backdrop. It's going to make those beads shift to this color right here. And because it's hitting it with light the way it is, and I'm going to have the subject all over there, this is going to have a beautiful bokeh to it. So it's something that I'm purposely forcing bokeh into the shot. Now, the original photo that I showed you, we did not use this specific background because the original background that I showed you in that photo it gets very, very messy. And what it was a Tyvek sheet of insulation. So it was a 4x8 sheet. And what it had craft silver and black glitter on it, and it was all glued onto it. So it was painted on with glue, and it reflects because it was very random. Same effect though. Put it far away, push light onto it, all those little sparkles, they end up blowing up as little bubbles of bokeh, and it looks incredible. So, but it's the same effect. So anything. So it's funny because a lot of people always laughed at me because years ago, like Home Depot and Joann Fabrics, like I would look for the most random pieces of stuff. I would take a piece of paneling that would go into Home Depot, and I'd look at like the brick paneling. So of course everybody gets the brick stuff, I'm talking about. And to me, the brick side is actually kind of cheap and cheesy a little bit, but when you flip it over, it's all grunged out because it's laying on the other brick panel, and it gets all messed up in a pattern, right? So but it's all blacked out and it's like grunged out and everything. And I used to turn that backwards, stick that on the wall, throw different color light against it. And again, because of that spatial difference, it just had this cool blurred, effect to it with contrasting variations. So what we're going to do real quick is I'm going to take a couple headshots just so you can see everything we put together. So I have 2 rim lights. They're currently set at 4.0. We have a key light that's set at 4.0 and a background light that's set at 4.0. So we have a 4 light setup right here that might be a little bit more complex for some of you. Now understand I meter each of these independently. So I turn lights off and meter. Also had, since we move stuff around, when I place Melissa into the chair, I had to make sure that because these rim lights are on 20-degree grids, so they're very focused. So if they're just a little bit off, they're not going to have the effect into our hair. And again, sometimes we use those half dome soft boxes there to push a little bit more of a softer light in. So while I'm transitioning and tweaking things out, just making sure everything's good, what we're going to do is move this back again so they can see. And Shannon, if you can grab that, maybe the chair, just move the chair back there. And then we're going to realign this so we can do the shot. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. Can you move it back more, almost to that hump? You can even take it off center. That way I can actually shoot. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Can you hand me the light meter? All right. So we need to move that. All right, so again, I have a light meter. Before a client steps in, I would take the light meter, turn it on. I have my settings. This is like a great calculator because you put in a couple settings and it tells you the missing piece, like old school algebra. So I have 100 ISO in here because that's what I have in the camera. I have 1/25 of a second. And what it's doing, I hit the button, it's looking for a flash. So the flash happens, it's telling me I have 4.0 and 2/10. So it's giving me the missing piece. It just read how intense it is. It's 2/10 hot. So let me just do another test real quick. And actually just adjusted the reflector a little bit and it took it up another 10. So actually that's even more. So does this focus on that?
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay. So this is, as you see there, 4.0 and it says 4/10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the light, which you can't see, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now I'm going to clear it. Push the button, wait for it. What I'm doing is I'm triggering it with the remote. So I just took it down 4/10 because I clicked it 4 times. And as you see here, hopefully, you'll see that I have perfect 4.0. So you'll see there. So really, that's all what a light meter does. It just reads the light. So I put in the 2 pieces, which is the shutter speed and also the the ISO, and it told me exactly what that was. Now, can you see this
Yep.
from back there?
Yep.
Okay. So this light is 20 degrees, and I need to make sure that it's coming in. Now, just for the sake of time, I normally would turn on and off the, have somebody sitting there and turn on and off the model lamp, because that would help me. Because I don't want to look at it when I flash, because I'll blind myself. But at least if I look right here, I can see that I'm looking directly. Because with grids, the cool thing is if you're slightly off axis, you're not going to see through it. Because that's exactly what it was controlling light. So I can see the right there. Now I can see that this one's off. So I'm just gonna, because we messed with it earlier. Can you see that side too?
Yep.
Okay. So these both are back in. So I know the hotspot's right where it's at. So what I'm going to do is test each one. Okay, so we move things around. So this one is not where I want it to be. It's 2.8 8/10. So I'm just going to take it up 2 clicks, and that should put me at 4.0. And I'll turn it off for a second. Turn this one on. I'll meter that. And my eyes closed. Okay. It's at 4.0 2/10, so I'm going to take it down 2. Okay. So now those two are set. Turn that off. I'm going to turn this on. Oh, and a lot of people, this is an incident reader, so you want it the direction where the light is. You don't want to face it where the camera is. A lot of people don't know how to use a light meter properly, so this is the direction that the light's impacting what I'm going to say. So that's where I want to meter it, is in this direction. So what I want to do is see the effect. Okay, so this is actually, I was testing earlier, and I actually took it up hotter. So this is 7/10 hotter than everything else. So right now, because it was a little too dark earlier on, so I forgot that I took that up. So I hit a nice color that I wanted to hit earlier. So hopefully you guys see that. So everything's independently metered. Sorry if you're hearing a buzz now, because now you're going to hear the lighting. All right. So what I'm going to do, yeah.
Question.
Oh yeah, we have a question.
So Tim wants to know, how important is the distance of your subject from the backdrop and backlighting?
Okay. So what's really important with that is the closer, especially because we're pushing color, the closer I get to it, the more that's going to, even though it's all black back there, it's going to still reflect. So it's having that color will then start contaminating me if it's too hot. So, and I'll show you an example. So I'll give you, just so you understand what's happening. I'm going to turn these rim lights off again. Okay. I'm also going to turn off this key light. So the only thing that's on right now is the background, right? So we just metered that. And depending on where I'm at, it's right around just above, just below like 5.6. Okay. Now, it's going to hit these little beads, and that's going to reflect back quicker than the background, because of course these are like, they almost have like a metallic feel to it. But everything that's in here is going to reflect a little bit, because again, this is pushing 180 degrees. Now, what I want to make sure is that it doesn't come back and reflect back here, because keep in mind right now, the only thing that's lit, that's popping right now is that background. So if I turn this light meter around and I'm the subject that's sitting right here, I want to know how it's impacting right here. So I'm going to hit the button, I'm going to hit, and in order for you to see that, you would have to be at 2.0 f-stop. Okay, so in order for you to see how that light is reflecting back, now here's the problem though. Let's say we didn't have the distance and we were right here instead. So we were closer, we're trying to do all this, right? Actually, it's not that bad still. We're still right around 2.0. So if all this is compressed, it would start bleeding in. It would start coming in and fraying around. where it's really important is when you're trying to do a pure white background, because that is a beautiful reflector. That background becomes a light source, and you don't want the light reflecting back to the subject to be hotter than. So if you're like pushing a lot of light, you're doing like F16 on them, and you're right here, and you're at like an F8 because you want everything to be in focus, and that light reflects back, and you don't have enough distance. Every light reflects back at F8 or hotter, then you're in trouble, because then you're gonna have that ghosting, that glow effect around the person, because that then becomes a light source that's hotter than your key light, and that's what you want to stay away from. You always want to make sure that light, it coming back to the subject, is less. So by increasing the distance, and keep in mind, it doesn't change anything. It's still going to hit, because I'm metering that light where it is, so it'll look the same. Just the bokeh will look different. If I took this and moved it 30 feet away forward, that's still going to pop the same intensity. It's just that I don't want it to contaminate what's going on within the space. So what we're going to do is take a photo real quick, and hopefully I'll be able to show you the behind the camera, and then later on I'll post it in the PROFITographers group and just show you the final image. But Melissa, are you able to
I'm ready.
just sit right here? So this is on a remote system. So again, I use the light meter. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you each piece independently. So right now, let me just do a test just so I can. Actually, we're going to scoot that over this way a little, because I moved everything. Right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is show you. We only have the background light on right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to go back a little bit more just so I can show the book compresses. So I'm only doing the background. Okay. Can you? Hopefully, you guys can see that. It's only the background effect in there. All right. And we're going to see. Oh, okay. So that's only the background. So nothing else exists. You see, there's no light contamination, even though it's so bright in here. There's no color contamination or anything. So look at that. Now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to introduce the rim light. I'm doing this backwards so you guys can see what each light's doing. Sorry. All right, can you see that? You see what that rim light's doing? All right, now what I'm going to do now is introduce the other rim light. Again, each light is doing its own thing. All right, so this one's a little hotter. Can you see that? So that's the effect that it's having. That's skimming across her a little bit. Now what I'm going to do now is introduce the key light. Now I just move this over, so let me scoot this over a little. Excellent. Stay right there. All right, can you see that? You see how beautiful that looks? Now again, it's not perfect because I can't show you it on the screen right this second. We're not tethered. So we have, now watch the difference that we'll have here in a second when I take away the rim lighting. Right, so we can focus on that. All right, here's the difference. See that separation right there? Now I'll post these images in the group so you guys can see it, but we got beautiful bokeh back there because we have the distance, the lights popping on it. And here's the interesting thing. So we'll keep the rim lights on. Well, I'll turn the rim lights off. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you one light setup. This is what just the key light's doing. So I'm going to turn the background light off now. The rim lights are off. The only thing we have going right now is the key light. Can you see that? See? Looks like there's a little bit of reflection that's happening in the background, but basically it looks pure black. And there's like literally like practically nothing there. So there's a little bit of it. If I put a grid on the softbox, you would be able to control light even more. I mean, I'm sorry, not the softbox, but the beauty dish. I'd be able to control it specifically to her, and you would not even see a couple of those. So again, I'm going to put everything back on again. But this time I'm going to change the color real quick. So we're just going to use this. All right. So we have all the lights back on again. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Look, so I own like 1,000 backgrounds right now just because I can in 2 seconds go over there and switch the color with the gel. I can change to see, look at the, see that's without a background light. So see that? That was without the rim lighting. It's with. Well, you guys can see that. It looks overexposed, but I definitely guarantee you that these are on point. It's hard to show you through this camera real quick, but I just want you to see, like, so we have rim lighting, 2 rim lights, key light. We have a reflector coming in on the bottom. We have different color gels we're using. Let me just show you what it looks like without the gel. Now, it's going to be a little hotter because the gels actually do hold back a little bit of that, the intensity. So that's cool. That's kind of, to me, it's cool, but I love the color instead. Like, it's just one-dimensional. So by putting the gels on, I can switch it and flip it around and change anything I want. So just, and again, just to prove the point, so we have that setting on. You can see that. Now watch when I take the so I put this on full power. Okay, so it's gonna bleach out, but just so you can see, we have a black background back there with the beads. You saw what we just did when it was metered properly. Now this is impacting her as well, but it's just totally pure white, blew out everything back there. So it's reflecting more light back than it's going back. So of course we don't want that, but I'm just showing you the truism that you can take a black background and you can make it pure white. So let's go ahead and go back over. We'll see if there's any more questions. All right, I know that was quick, everybody. Hopefully you got what you want out of this. Shannon, do you have any questions in studio, home audience?
I just thought I recognized from the old, like from the old Bear studio, the hanging beads, but then you mentioned that it was the different ones. Like,
oh, actually, so I had one of my previous studios. We had these beads up actually. Oh, so it was these ones, but when we were in Wilmington, when we switched locations, I had these stored, and we had the glitter boards that we had up, and that was actually done originally from one of my members that was in there, but I just pushed the color and everything on it. So it was really cool. So there's no pitch today. There's no angles. There's nothing hidden or anything like that. It was really about content. We're looking, Melissa and I were talking about, we have a schedule, 52-week schedule for PROFITographers podcast. There's already like 5 episodes that are on iTunes right now when we originally launched. So in the new year, we're going to be launching the new podcast series. But our goal is to do 1 or 2 of these webinars a month where there is no pitch, there is no angle, there's no sales or anything like that. It's all about delivering content to all you guys. So hopefully it's usable, things that you can use right out the gate, go out there and improve your lives, your livelihood. The one thing I will say is that headshots is what helped take us from me being homeless 8 years ago into having a very, very heavy 6-figure income these days. And that's because people that need headshots typically are in an ideal client avatar that are looking for other products and services, and they have money typically that they want to spend. And that's what's allowed us to attract big Fortune 500 companies to us over time. But is there questions that are coming in?
So Dan said the width is about 10 feet. What is the total depth of the space you're using?
Right now, from the background to where at least where the key light is, would you say it's about 20 feet?
15 or 20. Yeah.
About 15 to 20 feet. Understand that I'm using the 7200. I want to compress that, so I went about another 10 feet back. So in order to zoom in and pull that in and do that compression. Otherwise, you can't use a wide angle lens in these situations. I mean, you could. I would need to create a much larger background. As you see, it's not perfect back there. Some of the beads, this current system have been messed up as I've sorted over the years. So I only needed this little sliver because I knew I was going to compress that background by zooming in at 7200 and get that. But it's in total, it's about 20 feet distance that I have here to the key light, and then I add another 10 feet so I can step behind the camera there and zoom in to be able to grab that photo.
Karen just wanted to clarify, what was the background light that you used?
The background light is.
She had just joined in, so.
Oh, okay. So Karen, all the lights that we're using today are Paul C. Buff's Einstein's, but you could do this with speed lights. You could do it with constant light. It doesn't matter. It's just understanding about light, how to control it. Probably the only difference is that with constant light, you will have the light spill of other things. So I would have had to turn off all the other ambient light in here because that would have definitely contaminated the light and the color of light and everything in here. So I would have turned off these LEDs and the overhead lighting to get exactly what I wanted.
Holly had asked before, how do you know what grid to use?
20 is just something that I learned over 20 years ago from my first mentor out in West Hollywood, California. And he was a very active published photographer. They paid a lot of money for to mentor off of and has become a friend since then. But that was just his general thumb. It just seemed to be not too tight where it's so focused. You're putting a really hard hot spot. Now, we do use 10-degree grids, and we also use snoots sometimes when we really need to control it. We're in a really tight area, and I need to put a little pop of hair light in, and I'm going to do that from above just to put something nice, and I don't want it to contaminate or hit the camera lens or anything like that. It just has a nice spread that you do have a little bit of hot spot, but it spreads nice enough that it goes over his shoulders and everything, but it falls off very rapidly. So it's not coming into my camera or anything. I just learned with 30 and 40-degree grids, it just seems to spread a little too much where now I'm going to get lens flare no matter what. You have to keep in mind that these are, I have 3 lights that are behind the subject. And there's a few speakers out there through the years that always said that you can always tell a sign of a professional photographer by the number of lights that they have facing the camera versus going away from the camera. So a lot of people that are new always have only that 1 or 2 lights that they're putting in the front of the subject, but where you're going to start contouring and separating yourself from everybody else is what you decide to put behind people to create dimension and depth.
Dan, want to know what size is your pop-up background?
Okay. That pop-up I got on Amazon. It's really cheap. We call it the potato chip because when we take it out, it's one of the inexpensive ones. And when we take it out, it kind of like warps a little bit like a potato chip. So we had to take 2 heavy-duty stands and clamp it in order for it to like be straight. But it's a 5x7. So that's and those of you, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but let me just grab that out. Oh, folds down next to nothing, so it allows us to go on location, especially when we're doing just pure white backgrounds. It's easy for us to get in and out. We used to do 9-foot roll backdrops like that, and just to get it in the car and then take it into places. And then you finally arrive and they tell you you're going to have a 20 by 30 conference room, and all of a sudden you have an 8-foot wide hallway and you're jammed because you can't even get the paper out, properly. So we've been doing the portable systems for a couple of years now, but it's a little tricky. I do recommend that you practice how to fold it in advance, because you'll look pretty dumb in front of your client when you go to pack up and they're sitting there staring at you and you struggle to get that thing out the door. Hold on, Shannon had a question.
Yeah, I know the point of the seminar of today's webinar was to show how to replicate the sample image
Right.
that you showed ahead of time. So I'm curious, maybe for some of the viewers out there, if you didn't have the 4 light setup that you showed,
Right.
if you only had 1 or maybe 2, how would you recommend somebody to work around to try to replicate if you didn't have all of those tools?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, if you see any like the holiday things that Melissa and I just did, like it's on our Facebook profile, like our cover image and everything, even though we composite ourselves, that was a 2-light setup, and it's actually 2-light setup is probably the most common. And I hate to say it, because as a person that loves lighting, to simplify it, because I love controlling lighting and being creative with it. But our most common headshot is the boring, pure white background, flatly lit. And what we do in that case is we either do a larger umbrella or a parabolic off axis off to the side, depending on the client and what direction we have to take it. Sometimes we bring in the reflector to level the light a little bit. But then we have that background light that's back there, and it just pops hot, about a stop hotter than what they are. And it makes it pure white, and then it's easy to mask out with no fringing or anything coming forward. But as much as we love to be creative, we call it the LinkedIn photo or the social media photo. It's the one that everybody has. They're just floating there with that white background. That's our bread and butter. Like you can sit there and say all day long, no, I only want to do the creative and the fun stuff and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, what pays the bills, the bread and butter, is the flatly lit, standard, old school, headshot. But we had a major corporation. We had GE Corporation send when we did their photos back last January. That was a major account, because that was close to 100 engineers for their aviation arm, and they sent us a sample, because sometimes we have to take over where another photographer left off, and it was like one of these sky powdery, cloudy blue, old school, high school yearbook, style backgrounds. So they sent us, they wanted to duplicate. It was like, so I had to go out and buy something that was similar to that. And we've only ever used it for that, but it's not too often. I don't see us pulling out the painted muslins as much anymore. We're mainly doing the pure white backgrounds, and people want to be cut out and put into things. We do a lot of lifestyle headshots too, where we go outside of the studio. And we use mainly speed lights for that these days, just being more nimble and quick. Yeah, more questions?
Natalie wants you to talk a little bit about the beauty dish and what exactly it is and what it does.
Okay. Let me grab this one off So the beauty dish, which is very common in glamour photography, as well as a lot of headshot photography in general. And these are very old. You can tell they're discolored. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. I kind of like it because it puts a little warm tone into the shot naturally. We do have a silver one as well, and silver one reflects faster. It's more aggressive spread. But the idea with a beauty dish is that when the flash tube pops off, there's nothing that's direct, because it's going to hit the back of this piece right here. So what happens is it's going to be wrapping around and throwing light out. So if you think about how big the flash tube is, it's probably right around this size. They're enlarging the light source to this part. These have, I believe, the specs from years ago, I believe it's about 170 degree spread. So if you think about like light wrapping around here is going to fall off in this, it's going to reflect in this direction, and light over here is going to wrap that direction, not just forward, but with the parabolic piece here, it's with the curve, it's going to wrap around really nice. So it has a nice gradual fall off, but it definitely has a fall off. If you're doing a headshot, it's great. If you're doing a full length, you have to be careful, because these are very directional, that if you're really high and you're aiming and it's a little bit forward, you'll see the dramatic light fall off by the time it hits the floor. if you're doing full length. So you have to be a little careful on that. You might want to do a larger light source or bring another light from underneath in. But the whole idea is that it's a very soft light. It's diffused in the sense that it's not hitting direct. It is wrapping around. Has a nice big spread. It's a larger light source. Again, the closer the light and the larger the light is in relationship to the subject, the softer the light. The further away and smaller the light source, the harsher the light. So if you're trying to purposely create hard shadows and everything like that, you want to go with a smaller light source. If you're looking to have something that's softer that wraps around more, you want to have a closer light source. And so if I took this, it'll have a different feel if I took it and took it 20 feet away and had it hit me than if I had it right next to me. Because then it's closer, it's large enough, it's going to wrap around really nice. Further away it is, the smaller it is in relationship to me, it's going to have a hard shadow, harder, more dramatic difference between highlight and shadow.
And I'm not sure if Karen was referring to that. Karen was just asking about that large constant light in the ceiling. Is that a part of the setup? But I'm not sure if she was talking about the UV light.
No, okay, so there's a couple things happening in here, which is really cool. Now think about this. So everything that you guys just saw, if you look behind me right now, we're in a converted garage, and we have not blocked out, even though we have a curtain there, that light bleeding that's happening behind me, I think you can see it, that is actually a window that goes outside. But because the camera settings that I have in place, we don't see that ever. So just something, I know a lot of people get caught up and like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But other than that, we do have an LED in here just for video purposes because it was too dark in here. That has a CTO gel on it, color temperature orange, because it is a daylight balance LED, and we need to shift the color in order for it all to be the same in here for video purposes. So we have tungsten light bulbs. This is a garage. So we have 2, 3 bulbs that are in the ceiling that are at least just illuminating this enough, but we have this LED. But other than that, none of that is impacting when we take a photo, none of this light exists in the camera. So the moment that I take off the transmitter on here and I take a photo in this room, it's black, it's pitch black. So it doesn't, the camera doesn't see any of the ambient light that we have in here. So hopefully that helps.
And you mentioned this too before, but also just the beads, you purchased that, or is that due?
Yeah, so years ago, it's like a farmer's market type style place. You go and you find those random, like an Asian market, I think is where I found it, found them originally. But they're just the curtains. Anywhere that you go that's almost like a college dorm room type place, they have the curtain beads that you hang up in the doorways. That's really what that is. And I actually, since we already shot, I'll grab them just so you can see them better. So I just have one plant. So again, it's just like one of those doorway. I'm sure you guys can see that clear or not, but just a doorway hanging, like they have little hanging pieces here. You can see again, I just couldn't get it untangled enough for the webinar today, but I just look for anything that has reflective qualities or anything that has texture to it because it's so far away. When I push light onto it, does it have a repetitive pattern to it? Does it have something cool? It doesn't have to be something like this. It can be anything. Can you grab me that board over there that has the headshot on it? Because some of the people in here might not have saw the original image. So like this is a promo piece that we use. And this is the image here. You can see the bokeh and how it's like blurred out. I'm not sure if you guys can see that well, but this is the original image that we showed of former Miss Delaware here. But I'd say like Carol here, she just came back in for a third headshot session. She's a great example that a lot of people want that pure white background. This is just a promo piece that we use when we go out and do different events where we sponsor a booth or something. We're able to put this up on the tabletop. But any other questions?
One more question.
Okay, one more.
Ed wants to say, he says, my studio still are yours in my garage with 2 hanging tungsten lights. Would you recommend unplugging them when metering or just gel my speed lights?
Well, speed light's not going to have as much power output as we have in here. So I would do a test because I don't know what speed lights you have, and depending on how much power they have. And if I was you, I would do tests because again, there's different grades of speed lights. So for instance, with the Canon system, like I have the 600 EXRTs, and what I would do is put this in manual. I have it on stand, put it on manual, and I would do 1:1 ratio. I want to see how hot that pops. Okay, oh, that's too hot. I'm going to take it down, meter it just like I would with these up and down, because you can take them in 1/3 increments all the way up and all the way down. And I would find that sweet spot that I wanted. But I don't know with how powerful your speed lights are to know if you are introducing ambient light in the room or not with the lights that you have in there. So you would probably want to test it both ways. And one of the biggest tests is just to put in the camera settings that you want, aim at what you're going to take a photo of. So if you focus on something. Nope. Without the flash though, sorry. And so I just took a photo without the flash and there's nothing there. So I know my settings, even though you guys and I see, because we have this lighting on at 100 ISO at 4.0, I don't see, in the camera doesn't see anything that's in here. So I would do a test before you put the lights on, do a test to see what ambient light are you picking up in the room, because that also will throw in a color cast, not just, it won't just impact the lighting aspect on your end, but it'll throw in a color cast as well. And we do a lot of headshots with just speed lights, outside as well as inside. That's something that we'll talk about in a future webinar as well. But is there other questions?
And last question is, will there be a link available for this, and then where people can see the images that you took today?
Yes. So we'll be publishing the images. I'll do that in the next hour or so in the PROFITographers Facebook group. I know some of you come from different directions, and some of you have shared links and everything like that. We do have a Facebook group on Facebook called PROFITographers. So if you, and there might be a link on this page. I'm not sure if I originally set that up or not, but if you click on that, I think it might take you, maybe not. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll go ahead, because I don't want it to come across as spam if I go in all the other groups and start saying, here's the images, because then the admins will get a little bit probably upset that here I am posting over and over again to make that thread go back up to the top. But I'll post it there for everybody to see. Now, the software that we used for the webinar today will automatically send everybody a replay link in about an hour or so. So if you watch this webinar, if you registered for it, even if you missed it, it'll still send everybody automatically a link to the replay. So it'll be up for a while. But other than that, that's all we had for today. I do appreciate you guys coming in, spending some time with us. Again, this is grassroots. It's not a corporate ran thing. This is what we do for a living. We have two brands right now that we're merging back into one on the wedding end. We did a little over 60 weddings last year. We're looking to do the same this year. For Paul Pro Photography specifically, where I shoot, we stop ourselves every year 35 weddings, and we've gotten to the point now where Melissa and I are engaged. So now we're looking to do just 30 weddings into next year, just to slow down a little bit. So that means the other brand, our associate photographers, we're looking to ramp them up even more. I know we already have like 35-ish or so weddings already booked for next year. So the majority of them will start coming in. We'll probably book out by January, February for the year. So very, very thankful and blessed on that. And also our headshot business. We did a little over 800 headshots this year. We're not even finished. We're going back into Philadelphia this week to do more attorney law firm headshots for a marketing company. And but it's just something, this is what we do for a living. We're working photographers. We do very, very well. Thankfully, lighting, posing, the little nuances is what helps separates us from everybody else. And just something we just wanted an opportunity to share with you guys. And again, the PROFITographers podcast will be relaunching. There's some great content that's already on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. You can look at PROFITographers and get that. I will post these images from today within an hour after we clean up all this to everybody, so they can see the different images as far as how it all came together. But if you have questions, feel free to post it in that group in the comments, and I'll try to answer everything that we have. Again, Melissa and I both are working photographers, and it's something that sometimes we don't moderate the group as quickly as we can, just because we are actively out, doing shoots and meeting clients and everything. So, but I do thank you again for coming today, and I look forward to bringing you guys more content in the new year. And feel free to let us know what you want to learn and talk about, and we'll make sure if we don't have the answer, we'll try to pull somebody in that does. So did you want to say bye? Shannon, do you want to come on screen?
Bye.
So, all right, so I'll see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you got something out of this today. Thanks.